Thanks everyone for joining us at the Malvern Retreat House. We're going to take a look at the gospel and then find some ways that we can apply it to our lives. So the gospel from this past Sunday was taken from the Gospel of Matthew. When the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a scholar of the law, tested him by asking, "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" Jesus said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and the first commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. The whole law and the prophets depend on these two commands." So, Jesus' basic message, his simple message is to love your God, love your neighbor, and to love yourself. So, I just think we ought to take Jesus at face value this week and do exactly that. Find practical ways, simple ways to love your God, to love your neighbor, and to love yourself. So, this week, find simple ways to love your God, love your neighbor, and to love yourself. Let's take a look at how we might want to do that. You know, one of the easiest and really one of the most important ways that we love God is by going to church on Sunday and worshiping as a community. So I would encourage all of you to go to church on Sunday. Now, we're in the midst of a pandemic. So if you're able to return to church and go to Mass, that's what would really be best. Of course, there's all types of protocols to follow if we're going to Mass in the actual church building. So if you can do that, I would encourage you to do that. A lot of people in the church are a little afraid that Catholics may have gotten a little lazy just watching TV at home, and they're not going to come back to church as much as they should, or as soon as they should. So if you can, try to get back to church. Even if you can't do it every week, start to get back into that pattern. If you're watching Mass at home on Sunday, then really watch it attentively and be engaged with it. Stand when everybody is standing, sit when people sit, kneel when people kneel, do the gestures that we usually do at Mass, but get involved, be active in participating in the Mass at home. Also, don't be doing other things throughout the Mass. Don't have your computer going and don't be taking phone calls or answering messages. Really, give the Lord the hour He's due on Sunday. There's other ways that we can express our love for God. Finding time every day to pray. You know, daily personal prayer is a practical way that we can say to God, "God, I love you so much that I'm going to give you 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever it is, and that is my gift to you." So find time every day to pray. It's like a personal appointment with God. Same time, same place. I think that's a great way to show your love for God. Other ways you can do that is practicing the spiritual disciplines. That there are spiritual disciplines that we should practice that show our love for God. Fasting is one. Fasting from food, fasting from drink, fasting from the media, fasting from electronic devices. There's lots of different ways of fasting. Solitude and silence are spiritual disciplines that are part of a retreat when people come here, but they really should be more a part of our, typical day. So I would encourage you to maybe look into the spiritual disciplines that are a way of saying, "I love you" to God. Being involved with the sacraments, especially the sacrament of reconciliation. It's another great way of kind of going out of our way and showing God in a simple way that we love Him and that we want to be fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ, His Son. So listen, find practical, simple ways that you can say to God, "I love you." Next, do the same to express your love for your neighbor. Now remember, the neighbor is not simply the person who lives next door in the condominium or upstairs in the apartment or down the road in the development. The neighbor is anybody. So find ways of expressing love for those people in your life that you come in contact with. The most important people are the ones that we should always love the most and the first. Our family, our friends, the people who are in our sphere of influence. They're the people that we're called to find practical ways to express our love for them. But there's plenty of other people that we're called to love, the people we work with, people in the neighborhood, people that we just pass on the street. Be generous with those people. If you know someone who's financially in a stressful situation right now, maybe a practical way of expressing your love for that person is by financially supporting them. A friend of mine is sick, and another friend of mine heard about it. She made a lot of food, gave it to me so I could drop it off at this person's house. Well, it's a simple way of loving your neighbor. So, make sure that you love your neighbor as well. Finally, is love yourself. You know, lots of times we hear that we Christians are supposed to love God and love our neighbor. But the Bible says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And so Christians ought to love themselves. We Christians ought to have a healthy self-esteem. We ought to be affirmed in who we are. And my experience is that when people don't love themselves, bad things start to happen. If people don't love who they are, they want to be someone else. Well, God made you, you. And God doesn't want you to be someone else. So really love who you are. When we don't love ourselves and we start to develop a poor self-image, then lots of times we'll turn to unhealthy ways to affirm ourselves. This is not loving ourselves. So, in really practical ways, love yourself this week. I think this is just good, healthy psychology. It's good, healthy Christian humanism. I think it just shows a practical side of Jesus who loved himself and wanted people to love themselves as well. You know, sometimes people come to me for confession and they're just overwhelmed. They really feel bad about themselves. They don't like who they are. And sometimes I give this penance to people. I say, listen, for your penance, no Hail Marys, no Our Fathers. Do something nice for yourself. And they say, really? I say, yeah, do something nice for yourself and enjoy it. Go out, do something that you've been wanting to do for a while, enjoy it, and just see it as a token of God the Father's love for you. And I think that's what we need to do every once in a while. So if there's something that you've been meaning to do for a while and haven't gotten around to it, do it this week. Okay? If you like, if you want to go out for a walk or if you want to just do something fun, do it this week and see it as a way that you can love yourself and put the gospel into practice. So find practical, simple ways to love your God, love your neighbor, and love yourself. Thanks, everyone, and God bless.